Welcome back, or if you're new here, hello, my name is Katie, and today we are going to be doing our end of arc discussion video on ZOU. And this has actually been a long time coming because it's taken me a while to get around to filming this discussion. I don't know why, just my schedule has kind of been all over the place. But as we're filming this discussion on ZOU, I've just started Wano. So we've already finished ZOU, we finished Whole Cake, and we're in Wano. So before I get into the questions, let me just say my usual stuff. These discussions are very much a yap. Like, I try not to edit these too much. I'm just going to talk through my thoughts, have some things written down. I obviously have your questions to kind of guide me through my thoughts. But if I come up with some stuff here and there, like, I'm not going to edit it too much because, this is our chance to yap about the arc. This is our time to discuss. And on that note, there are some questions, about my theories on Whole Cake, which obviously I'm not gonna answer because I've already watched Whole Cake as I'm recording this. So, watch my Whole Cake discussion video when it comes out because I'll obviously go into more detail about my thoughts on, Sanji's whole thing and Sanji's family and all of that stuff. But with this, I'm just going to focus on the ZOU questions, okay? And how I'm going to do this is like if you don't already know, if you're not part of my Patreon, when we finish an arc in One Piece, I put up a post, I ask for questions, and a bunch of people ask me questions. I love it so much cuz I just love talking to you guys about the arcs. Like, I obviously yap a lot in my videos, we know this, but this kind of gives me more of a chance to just yap kind of unashamedly, cuz sometimes I'm told I yap too much, but this is pure yaps, so you can't complain, right? And a couple of my patrons, they ask multiple questions, which I really appreciate because it kind of gives me like categories to sift through. So I have a couple of those questions that I will show on screen. But instead of like going through each question point by point, it's kind of giving me categories to cover, if that makes sense. And then there's a couple of like fun questions at the end. So we're kind of going to do it that way. I do it sort of differently every video depending on how the questions are asked, but that's how I'm going to do it with this in particular. So yeah, if you're not already part of Patreon, we are always like 80 to 100 episodes ahead. Like I said, we are already in Wano as I'm putting this video on YouTube. We're like in the middle of Whole Cake. So we're like way ahead. If you want to be one of the people that ask me a question at the end of the arc and you want to be featured in one of these videos, then join Patreon. It's $3 a month. You get all the access to all the uncut content, and all my reactions are right there, and you get to ask these questions. You get to be part of the discussion. So yeah, it's really cool. Thank you so much for the support if you do join. And also thank you so much to my patrons who continue to support me and have asked me all these wonderful questions. So, ZOU, let's talk about it because it was a short and sweet arc, but it was very important. Very, very, very important. So many like big things were dropped. ZOU itself, the island, the poneglyphs, just everything about it was just, it was crazy and just so good, and had one of my favorite moments of like the whole anime, which I'll get into. But the first big question or questions is from Right Hand Man, so I'll show it on screen. Shout out my goat Right Hand Man, always asking the questions. I really appreciate you, and you've given me a lot of categories to cover. So like I said, instead of going through each question that you've asked, you've kind of given me stuff to talk through. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is kinemon, raizo, kanjuro, and momo, and my thoughts on them, because Right Hand Man did ask like how I felt about them since like first impression, and now we're getting to know more about them and like who they actually are. And it was obvious from Punk Hazard that these were going to be really important characters, and it's nice to see such depth now and such intrigue with them because, Kinemon and Kanjuro particularly are like thing one and thing two, dumb and fucking dumber, you know what I mean? But they're actually these really important figures. And I think like someone asked me, I can't remember if it was Right Hand Man or if it was someone else, but someone did ask me like what was the most confusing part of ZOU for me, because a lot of stuff was covered in that arc. And I mean, everything was pretty digestible in how they laid it out, but I mean, Momo talking about meeting Roger. Like, what do you mean? So that is the thing that's really been playing on my mind with them. Like, I just, my impression of all of them is that they have that they want to fight for their country. They're doing the thing. They cared about Kozuki clan and all of that. They're very, very dedicated and, trying to get help for their country. That's like my impression of them, aside from like their kind of comedic relief moments, with Kanjuro, with all of his shenanigans, and Kinemon and Raizo with all his ninja stuff. And even their designs are so out there, but I love it. Momo is the thing that I have been thinking about so much, because what do you mean you met Roger? Like, I don't know. Here's my thoughts on that. Either like he is just, I don't know, like, is he lying to just like go along with it? But wasn't there a moment with Nekomamushi where he said, yeah, we'll talk about that at some point? So I actually don't know. Didn't he say that? Didn't Nekomamushi be like, yeah, we'll talk about that at some point? And I was like, what do you mean we'll talk about it at some point? He just said he met Roger and he's like 2 minutes old. So you'd think like the way Momo is, like, he's an interesting character. He's very he's also like dedicated to what he's doing, and that moment that we saw between him and Luffy, and him like finally, taking the initiative to ask Luffy for help, in the way that Luffy kind of guides people that are younger than him, which is a whole other conversation that I could have, that I feel is so influenced by how he grew up with Ace and Sabo, and how he kind of like takes on that big brother role a lot now, and we're seeing that in Wano too, which I love. But yeah, Momo has this kind of like spoiled like little brat side to him as well. So at first I was like, is he just fucking taking the piss? Like, what is he talking about that he met Roger? Does he just want to be part of it all? But then with Nekomamushi saying that, and I'm pretty sure I have not imagined that, okay, it's like, I don't know. Like, how is that possible? Are we going into the realm of like fucking traveling through time or something? Because how? Unless he met someone. Okay, so spoiler, the point, I have just started Wano, right? So this is like an interesting point. I've just started Wano. We're not super far into it, but we did learn that Ace was in Wano, okay? And met Otama, had this like bond with her, right? So I'm thinking, did he mistake Ace for Roger? Is that like a little nod to like, Ace being Roger's son, and maybe, you know, because that could also make sense as to why Nekomamushi is like, yeah, we'll talk about that later, because actually, like, Ace was there or something. You know what I mean? Like, I do still think it's super weird, though. I don't know. It comes back to Nekomamushi saying that about, we'll talk about this later. And if I have, like, conjured that up in my head, but I'm pretty sure I haven't, it's just like there's more to talk about there. So could it be that he mistook Ace as Roger and he's like, he's just talking some shit, we'll talk about that some other time? Or is there more to it? Because he also like said it with such confidence and like it was nothing. So it's like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? No, you didn't, but maybe you did. I don't know. My thoughts are teetering between like traveling through time, which I don't know how, but like, what's not possible in One Piece at this point? You know what I mean? Or he's mistaken someone else and he's just like saying shit. I don't know, but I think that's too significant to be like a weird coincidence. You know what I mean? I don't know. But my thoughts on them are I really like them all as characters. Like, I feel like the one that I'm kind of drawn to the most is Kinemon. I don't know. Maybe it's because we've been with him for longer. Well, I mean, we've been with Momo as well, just pretty much as long. But I don't know. Kinemon is this like lovable idiot vibe, and like at the start, I kind of was like, oh my god, this guy, and now I'm kind of like, oh my god, this guy, you know. And he's kind of pretty, and I love what he's doing. You know, acting as Momo's father to protect him in this way. Like, I don't know. I really like him. And we can't talk about Kanjuro as well without talking about Ryunosuke, the best character in One Piece. I still think that the way Kanjuro like conjures his things to do things, he like chooses the most random fucking things. Like, I feel like he could have done something that got them there quicker than like, wasn't it a cat he summoned for him and Kinemon? Like, what the fuck? Anyways, they're weirdos, but they're like lovable weirdos, you know. And I feel like Raizo is kind of the same. Which leads me to what I mentioned, my favorite moment of the arc, and I'm sure everybody's favorite moment of the arc. Come on, is Raizo safe? Like, oh, I just got chills even just saying that, bro. Like that moment was it 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 kind of rivaled the moment where Fujitora says about Luffy, I bet you look kind. Like those two moments are probably two of my favorite moments of the entire anime just because of the significance and the message that they both hold. And the Raizo is safe moment was just like everything came together. And it was like these people are so loyal that they would go through what they went through to keep an ally safe. Like it's so powerful the way they all bowed down. And you know, the Straw Hats like being like, what the fuck? And them just kind of having no idea. It was just one of the most powerful moments. Like yeah, that has to be like one of my favorite moments of the anime, of maybe any anime. It was just so powerful. I don't know what else I can say besides that. But yeah, like god damn, the minks are truly the goats. But they're not goats. Maybe some of them, but like no pun intended, they just are the goats, you know what I mean? Anyways, so another question that Right Hand Man, or kind of like topic that he asked about, was Zunesha. So of course we have to talk about Zunesha, the big elephant in the room, as some would say. Zunesha is a fascinating thing in this show. I guess maybe also one of the most confusing things, but maybe not as confusing as Momo. But Zunisha is okay. So we've learned that Zunisha has to roam the seas as a punishment for a crime, and I think during my videos I theorized like, could Zunisha be like a person, a devil fruit eater? But how are they that size? Like, you know, is it a person? Did it start as a baby elephant and just grew? You know, there's a lot of questions around that, and what crime could they possibly have committed? But we know that Zunisha has been roaming the seas for a very long time through like the Void Century. It was mentioned of how old is like 1,000 years old or whatever. So I'm kind of like, I my thoughts on this are, I wonder if something happened during, okay, so hang on, how do I arrange these thoughts, right? So Zunisha is roaming the seas with ZOU on his back, right? And it's got a poneglyph on it, and it's got this like ancient civilization, it's got the minks, right? And there could be a thought of like, if Zunesha is being punished for committing a crime, could Zunesha be evil? But I don't know. I feel like I want to be part of the Zunisha defense squad because I'm like, Zunisha can't be evil. Come on. You could think that, right? A crime. A crime. Could they be evil? Um, but my kind of thought that kind of counters that is when Jack and the Beast Pirates were attacking, he desperately wanted to be commanded so that he could fight back. Now, that could also be for self-defense, that he didn't want to die, right? But the fact that there's like this ancient civilization, the minks and the poneglyph all on his back kind of makes me think that he is more a protective entity than just something that is looking out for itself. I think, at least. So, my theory that I have been thinking of about Zunisha is perhaps, I don't know exactly how it was worded in it being a punishment, and who, I don't know who could have imposed it, if it was someone else imposing it, but my theory, I could be wrong because I haven't went back and looked at exactly how they worded it, but what if it's a self-imposed crime? What if he did something during the Void Century or something, you know? What if he was supposed to like help in, I don't know, like the world government, like you know, trying to stop them from doing whatever it is that they did that they're now trying to cover up, but maybe he failed and he imposed this crime on himself. Like he imposed it on himself but asked someone else to like do this to him. I don't know who that could be. Like some kind of like higher power that could that well, or it could be just someone who has the same ability as Momo to command him to do things. You know what I mean? So command him to just walk. I don't know. Or it could be that you know, someone with that same power just was so pissed off at him that he um you know, was told to do this. But I don't know. The vibe that I get from Zunisha is like, I don't know. I just don't see it as like evil or selfish in that way. So I'm kind of thinking like maybe it's a self-imposed thing. And that would kind of make sense to me because I think Right Hand Man did also ask like, um, does it have a specific location it's going to? And I don't think so. I think it seems very aimless. And that would make sense to me for a self-imposed crime to protect something, but protect it aimlessly, like wander aimlessly, because it's kind of like a torture, you know, to have to keep walking through the ocean in order to protect something, because maybe he failed to protect something before. You know, that's kind of my thoughts on Zunisha right now. It's hard to make sense of because, like, again, I don't know what crime could an elephant possibly commit. Could it be a person? I don't know. I have had the thoughts that Zunisha is a person, but I don't know. With the way that it takes someone to command it, I'm like, maybe not. You know, we have to talk about, which Right Hand Man also did mention, is the Kozuki clan. You know, we found out that they made the poneglyphs and they wrote this language on them, etc., etc. Right Hand Man did say, like, who do you think this was done for? Um, and I guess my understanding of it was that they wanted to, um, well, obviously it was to preserve the history, the truth, right? I guess when you bring the road poneglyphs into it, I'm kind of like, cause it, you know, it goes in a, you know, it points in a specific place to fucking the last island, Raftel. Um, because of that, I'm like, Either I think that they're waiting for someone. Okay, here's my thought. I don't know. This is like literally what I've been thinking today. Okay? This may not make much sense, but maybe the Kozuki clan were able to have some kind of foresight about their fate, right? Because right now we know that the Kozuki clan are kind of like not really existing, right? Because Odin is gone, you know, there's Momo, etc., but their numbers are not, I guess, what they used to be. So maybe they had the foresight of their fate. They wanted to preserve the truth for like the whole world to know, but also for to lead themselves or someone important to Raftel. I don't know if they, well, obviously, yeah, right, but I don't know if they know who that person is. I think the only thing that I'm kind of like, what is this connection or who is this person is we know that the poneglyph in Fishman Island mentions Joy Boy. And isn't it like an apology? So I'm I don't know in terms of like exactly who the Kazuki clan were hoping to lead to Raftel, if they knew exactly, could it be this Joy Boy person, but if they're also able to leave messages on the poneglyph, maybe that's not the case. I don't know. When I think too much about that, I'm kind of like my brain is it feels like it's melting. But I feel like in general I think that the Kozuki clan, yeah, my theory is that maybe they had the foresight to see like some crazy shit happening, right? And they decided to preserve all this truth. And they're hoping that there is someone who will one day find that truth and change things. I think it's more so like not a specific person, but with the way that like Pedro and the Minks have talked about, you know, kind of like a new hope or a new dawn or whatever it is that they have worded it like. I think that they're hoping that there is a person that will be able to, you know, gather all this information and reach what they need to reach in order to find the truth and do something with this information. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know if they knew exactly who that was going to be. And I guess that's looking like Luffy now. But I think that maybe they were just like hoping for someone to fill that role. Does that make sense? I don't know. I don't know. I could be way off. I have no idea. We have kind of went into detail with those most important categories, but one of the things kind of branching off from that is about the poneglyphs. And Xavier has asked an interesting question. Now that we know about the road poneglyphs and their supposed link to Raftel, I'm curious what you think the broad strokes of the rest of the story will be like. We know we're going to Big Mom's, which I've already seen, and we know we're going to Kaido, and we've been hearing about this World Summit. But after that, do you think we got a lot of story left? A little? Any arcs and places you think you have left to go? I guess to sum it up, my question is, now that the path to Raftel is a little more clear, what do you think a roadmap of the rest of the story will look like? Keep up the amazing work. Thank you so much. I think that One Piece is just such an unpredictable story that it kind of is like you could have an idea of what a roadmap would be like, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of things that continually crop up, which, oh my god, I feel like I talk about this in every arc discussion video, but I'm like, when people say that they want to watch One Piece but it's too long, I'm like, dude, it's not long enough, because everything that crops up, you're like, we need answers for this and this and this, and you think this is answered, but this is a new question. It's like, you know, I could kind of guess, like, yeah, we went to Whole Cake, we're going to Wano, but after that, I'm like, I know that they want to go to Elbaf, but in terms of like where we actually have to go to reach the end, I've got no clue, because what the hell could crop up in between all of that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of fucking side questing going on. There's a lot of questions that we have. There's a lot of things we have to do. Even like the smallest little butterfly effect could change the course of things for a long time, you know? Even even going to whole cake was not quite planned, you know, because yes, we needed the rubbing of the road poneglyph and whatnot, but our main reason for going there when we did was for Sanji. So it's kind of like it's unpredictable. I don't know. And I think that's the beauty of it as well, because like if I could kind of be like, yeah, I think we're going here and here and here, and then I think we'll be done, I'd be like, I don't know, like, where's the sauce? You know what I mean? I like that I just don't really know where the fuck we're going at any given point, which is what makes this so great, you know? It's like, what person could we meet that could change the trajectory for another arc? Which I find exciting. To be honest, now being in the 900s, I'm like, I never ever want One Piece to end. So if we could go on more side quests and more side tangents, I would love that. Thank you so much. Now into some just more like kind of general questions surrounding this arc and a few other questions. James asked, who are your favorite new characters this time? Okay, so you all know that towards the end of ZOU, I really started falling really hard for Sanji. He has kind of moved up in my estimations, especially after Whole Cake, but I'll talk more about that in my Whole Cake arc video. But yeah, Sanji, like, really, I don't know, he went up in my estimation. It was like the moment that he left, I was yearning, you know, and that's just so typical. It's just so typical of me. In terms of characters from this arc, though, I really loved Nekomamushi. Like, I can't wait to see more of him because he is just, I don't know, being a cat lover and all the like cat references and the lasagna, like Garfield references and stuff like that, and just how he is. I just love him. I don't know. I don't really have a reason for it other than he's like a big chaotic cat, but I can't wait to see more of him. And I love that him and Dogstorm, I know I'm calling them their like Japanese names and English names, but I actually can't remember Dogstorm's other name. But yeah, the fact that they have so much significance in the lore as well is so cool. So I really can't wait to, yeah, learn more about them and hang out with them more in Wano, hopefully. I would say my two standouts of the arc were Nekomamushi and Sanji, because, you know, Sanji, he went missing and I yearned. Matt asked about the One Piece movies. So where do you stand on some of the other One Piece movies at this point? There's a few you can safely watch, like Film Z, Film Gold, and the tie-in movie for that one in addition, and then still to come would be Stampede and Red. I do get a lot of questions about when I will be reacting to more One Piece movies. The only One Piece movie that I have reacted to so far is Strong World, which I loved. And I swear to you guys, I do want to react to the One Piece movies, and they will be coming at some point. My only restriction at the minute is literally time. I obviously record everything myself, but I also edit everything myself. And so I physically, at the moment, without an editor, I don't really have the time. But I really hope that I can get a few of the One Piece movies reacted to this year before the end of the year. I would really like to, especially when we get into like the cozier months. It would be so nice to watch the One Piece movies. These ones that you have mentioned, I want to watch. I know there's so many more. So if there's any others you guys would like to recommend, not that I need to add more to my to-do list, but like if there's more that you want to see and are worth watching, let me know. But I promise you, I do want to watch the movies, okay? Because I swear I get comments about the movies like every week, and I do want to watch them. It's just time. Time is my only restriction right now. So thank you for being patient with me as always. Like, I try my absolute best to record and edit everything I'm reacting to. Hopefully one day we can have an editor on board and I can do so much more. But at the minute, yeah, my only restraint is time. But they will come at some stage. I promise you that. A few fun questions to kind of finish this off. We have from Alwyn, which mink would you most want to treat to lunch at a vegan restaurant, and which mink would you feel most guilty about bringing along on a trip to the zoo? Okay, so treat to lunch. You did also mention, don't worry, we all think Pedro is hot. It's normal. So that has made me think like I would love to go on a date with Pedro. God rest his soul. Um, but I think I am a huge lasagna lover. So I would like to have a vegan lasagna with Nekamamushi. Although, would he eat a vegan one? I think he would. I think he'd just be eating like. I think he'd just be eating a normal like meat lasagna. I don't know. Either way, I would love to treat me and Nekamamushi to a big fat lasagna. It would be so fun. Um, Most guilty about bringing along on the trip to the zoo. I think most of them would be like pretty excited about going to the zoo, but you know, in terms of seeing the animals, but then it would like kick in that they're in captivity and whatnot. So I think the one that would kind of probably be most offended at that would be Wanda. I think she'd be very strong headed about that. And she'd be thinking like, okay, how do we like break these guys out and stuff. But I think like, you know, Carrot, for example, I think she would be really excited. But I also think that it would kick in for her too. She'd be like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, let's break them out. You know what I mean? So probably Wanda and Carrot, I would be like, oh, yeah, the zoo is not the best place to take them. Also, I'm so glad that I'm not the only one that thought Pedro was hot. Call me a furry, I don't care. That man is sexy, okay? God damn. Michael asks, out of the ninja, pirate, mink, samurai alliance, which of the four would you choose to be? Not in the context of the One Piece characters, just the title themselves. Okay, let me think about this, like really like deep this too much, okay? Would I love to be a straw hat pirate? Abso-fucking-lutely. Would in reality I be able to be a pirate? No, because I get seasick and the sea fucking terrifies me. Like, girl, I could not be a pirate. I would love to. I would love to be a straw hat or have my own little crew, but I would not last a day. I'm telling you right now, I would die. So that's out of the question. Mink would be really fun because one of the questions that I have answered on these videos before is people have asked me if I could eat a devil fruit, which would I eat? And I have said a couple of times that I would eat like a Zoan fruit to be like a cat or something. Because I just love to be a little animal. So, you know, being a mink would be really fun, I think. I would like to be a mink. I think that would be really fun. Samurai, I'm not coordinated enough to be a samurai, which kind of like my next point kind of is whatever. But because I've just started watching Naruto and it's kind of consuming my brain, I would love to be a ninja. I would love to be a ninja. I want to be a ninja. I would say between ninja and mink. Can I be a ninja mink? I would like to be a ninja mink. That would be so fun. I do think I'd have to be coordinated to be a ninja, but you know what? Like, it's safe. Well, I was gonna say it's safer than being a samurai with the swords, but you have all your like ninja sharp things. So I don't know though. Ninja mink is what I would like to be. The Underdog 2020 asked, we've seen a lot of different races and species in the One Piece world so far. Humans, dwarves, giants, long arms and legs, fishmen, mermaids, minks, and many more. What other folk would you like to see in the story? Um, my mind is like went blank in terms of thinking what else exists. I don't know. Like what else exists? But then you have like all the people in Whole Cake walking around, like all these different races, and I'm like, I don't even know what half of them are. So I actually have no idea. In terms of what my favorites have been so far, though, I know you didn't ask that, but I feel bad because my brain is like blanking on what else there could be. I would love to see more of the Tontatas. I really love the Tontatas and learning more about the giants as well, because, you know, in the grand scheme of things, we haven't really, um, I mean, we spent time with Brogy and Drogy. Was that his name? Brogy and Brogy and whatever. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, we haven't really spent a lot. Oh, and the guy that's in our fleet, that was in Dressrosa, Harjuden. Me and my fucking pronunciations. But yeah, I think I'd like to see more giants because, like, big men, big men and women. I'd like to see it. The underdog also asks, if you could choose one mink to have as a lifelong friend, pet, or companion, who would it be and why? Can Pedro be all three? My lifelong friend, my pet, and my companion. No, I'm kidding. It would probably be Nekomamushi. Come on. Come on. Me and him would have a great life together. We would just eat lasagna and be fat. It would be great. I would love that. And the most important question probably ever is, does Zunesha poop? And my answer to that is, like, he's gotta poop. Come on. Like, I know he's just like wandering the seas and stuff, and like he's clearly very special and significant, but he's gotta poop. Everyone's gotta poop. But how big are those poops? And the last question from the underdog is, what dish would you want Sanji to make for you? And honestly, I would love to say that, okay, here's one thing about me is that I'm a very picky eater, unfortunately. And I do have my favorite foods, right? I would love Sanji to make me some of my favorite foods, like lasagna or tacos or something that I really love. But I guess if that was like a last meal type situation, sure, I'd pick one of those. But you know what I'd really love is that I would love Sanji to make me something that I don't know if I like, and he makes it and I love it. You know what I mean? Like, he's able to, like, kill the picky eater within me. I think that would be really, like, there's no one I would trust more to make something that I don't know if I like, or if I think that I don't like, than Sanji. Like, he would cook it and I'd be like, you know what? This is delicious. I would just love for Sanji to cook everything for me so that I'm not picky anymore, because he makes everything so delicious. You know what I mean? That is our discussion about ZOU. Short and sweet little arc, but it had a lot of significance and one of my favorite moments of the whole show so far. Lots to think about. Thank you for your questions. And if you want to keep the discussion going in the comments, please do. And yeah, if you want to join Patreon and be part of these discussions, I would love to have your support over there. But yeah, ZOU, what a short and sweet arc, but so significant, and honestly, one of my faves. But I feel like I say that about every arc because I just love every arc of One Piece. I just love One Piece. So stay tuned for my whole cake reactions and my whole cake discussion video. I'm very excited to share that. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this discussion. And I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.